back to FANSPLAINED, a media criticism podcast with Ryan and Em. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Em.
This is a special one-off episode / bonus to cover a film we recently had the opportunity to screen as a relatively new release, Cyrano. Cyrano has had a complicated release date schedule with early screenings starting as early as winter of 2021 and a short 1 week limited run in December to make the film eligible for award nominations for the year. However, the wide release started on February 25th, so we saw it about a week into the release or so. Unfortunately, the film has been quite overshadowed with large releases. See our episode last week on the Batman. And to our estimation anyway, may not be on track to make back its $30 million budget with screenings alone. It's still possible at $3 million something as of this weekend, but we'll see. We'll see. Our screening, however, was almost private. There were maybe 6 of us total, and no one came in until halfway through the
opening scene. There were maybe, I think there were 2 other couples.
Yeah, it was just us and 4 other people.
Yeah.
And we had to go to an AMC over a Regal because for some reason I have not been able to find screenings of this movie at Regals at all, which cannot be helping its wide release case here.
Yeah, it's because it's such a shame because the $3 million budget, all of it you can clearly see on screen.
Yeah. That $30 million was spent very well.
Yes. So it's actually, everyone at the theater on the weekend was there to see Batman. We already saw it during the week.
So we did not have to go on Sunday, but literally everyone else around us was going to the Batman.
And it's really kind of sad because it's such a gorgeous looking movie, as we are going to get into.
It really would have been better served if it could have had that wide release back last winter when it wanted one.
Or hell, even last month.
Yeah.
Before the Batman dropped. If it had come out before the Batman, it probably would have had more of a chance. Now I have no idea if it's going to make back its money or not, which for those who aren't aware, a movie that cannot make its budget back, at least the budget back, is usually considered a flop.
Yeah.
If it makes its budget back, it's okay. It's not a great success. If it makes over its budget back,
it did well.
Yeah. But if it does not even make back the money that they spent making it, that is considered a flop and a failure. A financial failure of a movie.
Which is funny considering how many awards this thing has just been nominated for across the board.
Except Peter Dinklage deserved an Oscar for this.
He did deserve an Oscar nod. There are some weird Oscar snubs this year, though.
There are a lot of Oscar snubs.
That could be its own episode, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm. Though I only care about the Oscars in the sense that I care when things I like are nominated.
I think that's most people.
But aside from that, I don't even really want to watch them anymore because I get such secondhand embarrassment.
I think that's most people.
And yet they keep them going anyway.
And yet here we are.
Mm-hmm. Cyrano is an adaptation of a new musical adaptation.
It is an adaptation of an adaptation. That was not incorrect.
From 2018 of the original play, Cyrano de Bergerac. Cyrano is a brilliant poet and writer, but due to a disfiguration in the play, this is purely ugliness or having a big nose, though this adaptation centers this on the lead actor's dwarfism. I also really like how the document has disfiguration underlined, like it's not correctly spelled or a word.
I find that really funny because mine doesn't. Your Chromebook does, but mine recognizes it as a word.
I don't know what's up with that. But yeah, I actually liked the change that they made with those.
Yes.
It makes a lot more sense for his attitude and not just, I'm ugly, boo, feel bad for me.
Exactly.
He understands himself to be unworthy of the affection of the woman he's been in love with since childhood, his longtime friend Roxanne. Roxanne is currently being courted by a duke she's not in love with, using the courtship only to go to the theater.
Since she could not otherwise afford doing so on her own.
Pretty much.
She openly admitted this.
She did, like, right within 2 minutes of the movie, even.
Loved it.
She is thoroughly independent, also educated and in love with language, and is determined to be claimed by no one, especially if there is no love involved in the match. Her attendant, Marie, urges her to accept the Duke's assumed marriage proposal for financial purposes alone, though she declines. She declines hard and repeatedly.
Yes.
Regardless, Roxanne attends the theater with the Duke, where she locks eyes with a very young man new to the area.
Christian. He was not very young. He was just young.
He was younger than the Duke. That's all that mattered. Apparently.
Yes, well, I mean, yes, most people in this movie were younger than Ben Mendelsohn.
Christian. I almost said Christensen. Both Roxanne and Christian are convinced this is love at first sight, but this meeting is interrupted as the play is early on. As the play...
They're interrupted as the play is early on by Cyrano, who is loudly critical of the lead actor.
Okay, that's what you were doing with that
sentence. Yes, that's what I was doing with that sentence.
The publicly popular Montfleury, which I kind of felt bad for that guy, actually.
Only a little bit,
A little bit. I did actually feel kind of bad for him being, like, forcibly removed from the stage.
Scared off.
That's right. Tyrion down there was going to whip out his sword.
Yep.
And yes, we're probably going to refer to Cyrano as Tyrion a few times just because that's
what we see.
That's what we see. I
mean, we'll get to this in a minute once we get through the summary, but
it's just, we watched Game of Thrones for 10 years. Peter Dinklage as Tyrion was like one of the best things on that show.
We'll get to this when we get to acting, though.
I'm just saying this is why, okay?
Yes,
it's not any
disclaimer, we will refer to him as Tyrion probably more frequently than we ought to.
I'm just saying this as a forewarning. This is no insult to Peter Dinklage or anything like that. It's just,
we're so used to Tyrion.
We really are. Who was also quite the wordsmith, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
I drink and I know things.
I mean, they're basically the same character in that respect.
Just, Cyrano knows how to use a sword a bit more. That's all.
Yeah, a little bit.
The actor is scared off, upstaged by Cyrano's very clear control of words, like he pretty much rap battles him.
Yeah, this is Hamilton over here.
Yes. But as the actor leaves, Cyrano is challenged to a duel by the Duke's offended attendant, Valverde. They clash swords, and Cyrano is a clear winner. Excuse me. But Valverde is a sore loser and moves to backstab the poet, literally. Cyrano is saved by Roxanne's concerned shouting, and in a rush of self-defense, Valverde is killed up on the stage right in front of Roxanne and the Duke. I guess the audience did get a show in that sense.
Yes, they did.
Mm-hmm. Despite the declared duel, De Guiche,
yeah, that's how you say it. That is the Duke. The Duke is named De Guiche.
I almost wanted to call him the Dedouche.
I mean, that's not entirely incorrect.
The De Guiche.
The De Guiche. The Duke is deeply offended by what he deems as murder and interprets the cool motive still murder and interprets Roxanne's warning of Cyrano as a relationship, however defined.
And that poses a significant threat to his courtship of the noble woman. He demands that Roxanne call up the friendship to remain in his good graces.
You don't have to turn on that red light, Roxanne! We're intolerable. We're not even through the summary.
This episode is just going to be full of all the references.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Yup.
Mary helps Mary. I forgot.
Her name is Marie.
I forgot her whole French. Allegedly.
Oh my god.
Not a single French person to be found, actually. Marie.
Oh my god. Marie helps Roxanne to
It's like the Three Musketeers.
I cannot with you.
Marie helps Roxanne.
She can't even get through it. Ridiculous. Marie helps Roxanne to arrange a private conversation with Cyrano, assuming her lady to be doing as she's been bid, but of course Roxanne does not.
However, while Cyrano is still grappling with being faced with his own deep feelings for Roxanne, she instead confesses to her old friend that she's fallen in love with a new military recruit in Cyrano's own regiment, Christian. Unable to deny her, and assuming she'd not take his confession over this newfound infatuation, Cyrano agrees to give her terms to Christian to write her a letter so that they can begin to communicate, and to also keep Christian from personal duels and fighting. That whole scene was very upsetting, actually.
This whole movie is upsetting.
Yeah, like, to the point to where at the end, I couldn't even... It felt wrong to clap. Like,
I mean, I'd been sobbing for, 20 minutes,
It deserves the applause, but it felt wrong, because it was just so... It was so sad. And I was like, is this disrespectful to be like, yeah!
I mean, I'd already been sobbing for, 20 minutes.
Yes. Begrudgingly, Cyrano does this, but also discovers that Christian is uneducated in language, and especially that of expression. As both fear to upset Roxanne and let her high expectations down, Cyrano offers to write Christian's letters for him, using the letters to confess his own affection to Roxanne through Christian as a messenger. But these boundaries never stay clear, and both Christian and Cyrano have the spurned Duke to contend with.
Dun.
Like, when you look at it like that, these two dudes, are so desperate to make this woman happy that they're willing to go to these stupidly complex lengths for her, and it's actually really sad. I know people claim this is a romance, but it just feels really sad to me. It doesn't feel all that romantic. It just feels sad, and it makes me feel bad. And
it's kind of like how upset I get at the end of Call Me By Your Name.
I mean...
I'd also call that a romance, but I also get deeply upset.
I honestly, I got all the way through the end of that movie, turned it off, and then it's only after I turned it off that I started sobbing, uncontrollably.
I sobbed through that entire movie.
I made it all the way through, and then at the end, I was like, okay, that wasn't bad. Oh my god! It just sunk in. Yep. It was like a delayed reaction to how awfully just... Elio, no!
I mean, obviously not the same movie, and there's not the same amount of tragedy in it, but it does end on a similar, unsatisfying note. Really.
Because it's just so
They're both tragic. They're both tragic in different ways, however.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is. It is 100%.
And it leaves you feeling like you've been chewed up and spit back out.
I mean, given the lyricism in the songs, I'm pretty sure that was intentional. So, Cyrano is directed by Joe Wright, as we've briefly covered in previous episodes, at least in the context of being attached to actors or artists attached to the Marvel films that we typically cover. Because some of these people it was basically when we were covering Avengers, and the cinematographer had worked with Joe Wright a bajillion times.
Yes.
Spoilers, same cinematographer.
Yes.
Yeah, I still blame Avengers on Joss Whedon.
Yeah, because this movie was gorgeous.
Oh, yes, it absolutely was. I want to die. Wright has an extensive filmography, including Pride and Prejudice, which was the one with Keira Knightley. Atonement, also with Keira Knightley. The Soloist, which had Robert Downey Jr. in it.
Yes, Robert Downey Jr. and Jamie Foxx.
Hannah, which had Saoirse Ronan in it, if I remember right.
Saoirse Ronan and Cate Blanchett.
Anna Karenina, which was also Keira Knightley.
Yes.
Pan, which is a movie we don't talk about.
Hugh Jackman.
We don't talk about it. And Darkest Hour, which... has everybody in it.
Which finally gave Gary Oldman the Oscar he so richly deserved.
Yes. Yes, I know. Finally. I know you have feelings about Gary Oldman and his Oscar.
I do. Finally. I could bitch forever about it.
According to Wright, with an interview in Vanity Fair from last year, he said, "There's no irony in the movie. There's no cynicism in the movie. And I have to be quite brave to do that because we use cynicism as a defense, I think. It's my heart out there, trusting that people will respond to it with their hearts. It feels like it's the kind of movie that I need to be making, especially now." Yeah. And it was very much like this love letter to going back to the theater. Like, he even does, like, this opening thing before the movie even starts, which I have not seen since, like, Anne Rice talking to people before Interview with the Vampire. Straight up. I have not seen that in a long time, where the director comes up and starts, like, talking to people before the movie starts. I have not seen that in a long time.
That didn't happen with Dune?
I think it did when we went to, like, the tiny screening.
Oh.
Like the preview screening. I'm pretty sure that Denis did that, but I don't think he did with, like, the actual movie. I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I think that we're conflating it with the preview screening. Regardless, it's still really rare for that to happen in general.
Yeah, it's not something you see.
Yeah, but when you have people who are very theater-minded, you get a little bit more of that because that is very much a theater thing to do, right?
Also, he had a lot of making up to do for, his involvement in Woman in the
Window. Oh my god, what a terrible movie that was.
That was absolute.
That was hideous.
It was so bad.
We almost checked out of it multiple times. More so than you did, because you were determined to get to the end.
I was
just so mad by it at every turn. I'm like, this is just awful. I hate it.
I was determined to finish that flaming turd of a movie.
Gary Oldman deserved better.
He did. Everyone in that cast deserved better.
God, what a movie that was.
Even John Walker was in there.
I would say, however, that this redeemed Joe Wright for me. Congratulations.
Yes.
I don't have to remember that The Woman in the Window exists ever again, because I will never, ever watch it again. Ever. So, the stage production on which Cyrano is specifically based is written by Erica Schmid, who also wrote the film's screenplay.
Yes.
So she redid, like, this new musical version of it in, like, 2018 for the stage. And the music for both the stage production and subsequently the film was written by members of the band The National. So you have musician twins Aaron and Bryce Dessner and lyricist/singer Matt Berenger, who worked on, like, the musical arrangements and the songs.
Yes.
They are responsible for the end credits version, like the full song version of The Reigns of Castamere from Game of Thrones. They also do, like, the band itself did a duet with Taylor Swift on Evermore recently last year. Aaron Dessner, on the other hand, frequently not only, like, co-produces vast majority of her albums. Well, not a vast majority of, but a lot of them. He also co-produces some of her songs, co-writes some of her songs. And he started, like, a side band with the lead singer from Bon Iver, who also did a bunch of duets with Taylor Swift. And I remember reading this very specific story when they were talking about, like, how they had to add the musical stuff to Cyrano, about how, like, they had to teach Peter Dinklage not to sing like Matt Berenger. But at the same time, I'm like, where's my duet with Taylor Swift, Peter?
Yeah, you sound
She's a Sansa stan, Peter. Where's my duet, Peter?
Yeah, you sound like Bon Iver. Do a duet.
I need it right now, because, let's be real, I'm gonna jump away from this for, like, 5 seconds, but, Erica, I see you. This is Tyrion Sansa fanfic.
Yes, it is.
And we know it, we can see it, we appreciate it.
It is historical Sansa and Tyrion fanfic.
Yes.
And we do appreciate it because that was our, like, OTP.
Yes.
In the show.
Yes. Yes.
We wanted nothing more than for them to end up together.
Yes.
We almost kind of
And I keep getting cock-blocked.
We almost kind of got it.
Every time we get cock-blocked. Every time.
And then you did it here, too.
Then you did it.
In the worst...
I'm so upset, but at the same time,
way.
We see you, we appreciate you.
Yes.
Ergo, where is my duet with Taylor Swift?
Also, I do appreciate that a woman actually wrote an adaptation of this story.
Hell yeah.
That was nice.
And I will get into that in a hot minute. So, well, actually, like, literally right now. So, Erica Schmidt is actually married to Peter Dinklage. She's been married to Peter Dinklage since 2005, and she is the one who is responsible for the change in the Cyrano adaptation, moving it from this, some dude's upset about having a big nose, to literally having a disability.
Yeah.
Which is not a thing an actor can take on and off.
No.
Theoretically. I mean, obviously some of them you can, but this is not one of them. This is not one of them.
Yeah, genetics is not something you can do that with.
And, like, she would be very well informed on how to deal with that.
Yes.
And it doesn't surprise me that she basically wrote this knowing that her husband was probably going to be in it.
Yes.
I mean, I guarantee that was not a thing that... Allegedly, but it was probably very likely not a thing that was going to happen, that they were going to give that to any other actor. Like, why? Why? It doesn't make sense. The adaptation also features a number of other changes. So, Wright, like the stage adaptation... Erica's stage adaptation still sets the play in 1640, which is when the original play is actually set as 1640 in a war against Spain. Because I know we had this question, we're like, who in the hell are they even fighting? I don't know. It's because they filmed all of this in Italy.
Oh.
It's still technically supposed to be set in France. They just filmed it all in Italy. That's why you get all the palm trees.
And that's also why yeah, because those were not... That was not French architecture. I was trying to place
it was Italian.
It was. That's why.
Mm-hmm. So, Wright changed the setting, specifically the movie version, from the 17th to the 18th century. So, it's set in the 1700s now.
Oh.
But that also allowed shifts in the costumes a little bit. Because I only found this out when going through, like, an interview with the costume designer. Because I was trying so desperately to figure out where in the hell and when this was set. Because I was so confused. I'm like, I know this is supposed to be French, but it doesn't particularly look French.
Well,
also, I cannot place a specific period on this because it's kind of all over.
Well, those costumes were very reminiscent to the ones we saw in Dangerous Liaisons.
They're also very... The military uniforms are also extremely reminiscent of Hamilton.
Yes.
And I was getting those vibes throughout the entire opening of the movie because Peter Dinklage did a lot of, like, speak singing.
Because instead of it being blue and white, it was red and white.
Yeah, which is, like, the opposite of what, like, the Canadian ones looked like, where they were, like, red with, like, the white accenting. Mm-hmm. I only know that because I've made one, because I'm a cosplayer, and I made one several years ago. Next to the American one, because I had to sit and look up what the differences were.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah, I can see where they were getting the 1700s in this one, because it started feeling very Hamilton to me in a lot of places. So Cyrido'S Death has also been altered from the original. I don't know if they included this in just Erica's version or just the movie, but the original play kills Cyrano basically by having a log fall on his head from a high building, and it mortally wounds him, and then he still does, like, the end death scene soliloquy kind of thing. Yeah. But he doesn't die in Roxanne's arms. He dies in, like, his friend's arms.
Boo.
So, like, he denies, whereas this movie, he actually admits it to Roxanne before he dies, right?
I mean, she kind of forces him to. She's like, I'm not in love with you, my love. I'm like, Tyrion, shut up.
Yeah, right. No, like, but, like, that confession isn't made to her, and Cyrano in the original play, like, denies it to his death. God. Because he is a prideful son of a bitch. Mm-hmm. Good for him, I guess.
I guess.
But they changed this into a slow deterioration of a war wound, and they gave the direct confession to Roxanne and kind of, like, shortened the character list a little bit needed for that scene.
I mean, I guess it also gives at least some kind of closure at the end.
Yeah.
Whereas
even though, like, it literally
not.
ends right as Cyrano dies. It's like, end of movie.
Boom, that's it. We're done.
It.
And
That's all you got.
Really?
There's also, like, a lot of other, like, weird adaptation things, not necessarily related to this movie in specific, but just Cyrano in general. So, first, the original play introduced the word panache to the English language.
Nice.
So, them talking about, Cyrano's pride or his swagger or whatever, that was what they used panache for.
His swagger.
Yeah, basically his boisterous nature was his panache. Ooh. And he talked about it like it was, like this was some, like, Austin Powers thing, and he was like,
mojo.
his mojo, baby. Except it's his panache, baby.
My panache.
My panache, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. There's also, this introduction of, like, this scientific / psychological concept from, like, the 1970s called Cyranoids, when it's basically like they were trying to explain. They've basically turned it into, like, case studies on AI now, but it was, like, originally set up as, like, basically what Cyrano is doing with Christian, like, speaking through him.
Yeah.
And the other one is just the mouthpiece. But they were trying to turn this, like, fantasy into, like, an actual operational scientific concept.
Ew.
So you have that, but then, like, when they translated it to, like, AI and, like, how people, like, relate to AI and, like, the AI talking, kind of like a GPS, right, where it's, like, talking through a thing.
Yeah.
I think. Like, the thing that the AI talks through is called an echoborg.
Okay.
So you have Cyranoids and echoborgs.
Ew.
And this, like, the original concept was, like, supposed to be about, like, radio transmissions or something. And it was, like, created in the 1970s, and that's what they based the name on, was Cyrano, because of the way that Christian and Cyrano's relationship worked. I just thought it was fun trivia.
I mean, yeah, but echoborgs and Cyranoids sound like stuff you need to wash off yourself.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, they do. It's very sci-fi. Yes, it is.
If you say so.
It is. There was also an adaptation, like another film adaptation done back in 1945. Like, there's been a bunch of film adaptations, right? You have, like, the Steve Martin, Roxanne.
Yes.
Things like that. There was also, like, a really recent one, like Sierra Burgess something. Like, it was something.
Oh, that was the one with Barb from Stranger Things.
Yeah, that one on Netflix.
Yeah, and and everyone hated it because she's an absolute asshole in it.
I mean, to be fair,
no one likes her.
Cyrano's kind of a dick.
Like, no, I need to show you the Pretty Much It version.
We love them, by the way.
Yes, we love Pretty Much It. And I need to show you that episode because then you will understand what I'm talking about.
But yes, that movie was also, like, another recent adaptation of this.
It really crosses a line.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll get to that separately. Anyway, so there was this version done in 1945 called Love Letters, and it's not directly involved either, but basically it is. I need to pull my notebook out because I have it written down. Like, it's wildly complicated because.
Oh my god.
It is. It's really funny though because I liked the trivia attached to it, and I think you will be quite amused. Just let me find it.
See, this is the real reason our episodes are so long.
Yeah, I know it is. So it was a screen adaptation of an Ayn Rand adaptation of a Christopher Massel book called Pity My Sympathy, which the movie turns this into an adaptation of Cyrano de Bergerac. So it's like adaptation Inception.
God, I hate Ayn Rand.
I know,
so
Ayn Rand is not the thing I'm bragging about here. Fuck Ayn Rand. I'm just whatever.
I'm gonna vomit.
I know. But the musical score was the thing that was really notable about this film. Like, it also got some other accolades for, like, acting and stuff, but the musical score was done by Victor Young, and he'd composed this song called Love Letters, and the movie only uses, like, the melody version of this song, not, like, the full lyrics version of the song.
Yeah.
And that song is reused in Blue Velvet by David Lynch.
Oh! Oh my god.
I just thought it was cool trivia. It has absolutely nothing to do with this movie. I just found it out. I'm like, that's so cool.
Heineken? Nah, fuck Heineken. Pat's Blue Ribbon. Anyone who hasn't seen Blue Velvet, you need to see Blue Velvet. It's really messed up.
It's such a messed up movie, but I love it.
It's really entertaining and it's very fantastic. Messed up.
It's fantastic. It's actually one of my favorite Lynch movies.
It's one of David Lynch's more coherent movies, actually. Like, it's a narrative that you can follow a lot easier.
Well, and it's actually, like, contained.
Yeah.
Where, like, a lot of his movies are not.
Like, you literally starts out the movie, white picket fence and everything, and you think, like, oh, whatever, this isn't a important movie, and then you zoom in on like a disembodied ear in a yard, and you're like, "What?"
Thanks, David. At
Like
least it makes more sense than him interrogating a monkey for 17 minutes. It's a short film on Netflix. What did Jack do?
David.
We're not here to talk about David Lynch, though. David. Unfortunately.
Why?
Back to the actual movie.
Back to the actual review.
To the actual movie. Wright reconnects with frequent cinematography collaborator Seamus McGarvey for Cyrano, and we've previously covered McGarvey's work with the Avengers, so I'm not going to get super into that other than this looked very pretty, and I am damn near convinced that most of what I disliked about the Avengers was not on McGarvey.
No, this visually was a beautiful looking movie.
No, yes.
And even if
Stunning.
you don't like musicals and you don't like the story, you can at least watch it and appreciate the visuals in it because they're amazing.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Is.
So the costumes are handled by an Italian designer called Massimo Cantini Parini.
Ooh, what a name.
With assistance from Jacqueline Duran, who worked on Roxanne's wardrobe specifically, and we covered Jacqueline Duran in our Batman episode because she did most of the costume design that was not the Batsuit.
Yeah, they do that sometimes. They will have a separate costume designer for a specific character or wardrobe.
Especially if you have to make so many costumes, because Roxanne had a very extensive wardrobe.
She had a assload of dresses.
Yes, she did. Mm-hmm. So Parini did previous films, and is like a whole list of previous films, but he's a frequent collaborator of director Matteo Garrone, they worked on together Pinocchio and Tale of Tales.
We saw that.
I thought that you'd really like that, because we did really like the look of that movie. Holy shit.
We did.
The costumes are fucking stunning.
The costumes are gorgeous. The look of that movie is gorgeous, too.
Yeah, like, so he basically does majority, like, foreign Italian movies, right? But like, when we watched Tale of Tales, we're like, this is fucking gorgeous. What the hell? It's... Like, say what you want about the rest of the movie. I don't care. I still really enjoyed it, but it looked so fucking beautiful. Good.
Like, it was just... It's like dark fairy tales.
Yeah, we watched that for Halloween.
Yes, we did. We watched it during the spooky season because it is technically classified as a horror movie, and it was basically dark fairy tales ramped up to, like, 10, and it was so beautiful to look at. Like, some of the stories didn't land.
I mean, that's what's going to happen when you do, like,
an anthology.
Yeah, thank you. I was like, I know there's a word that I'm forgetting here.
But yes, this person is incredibly talented and gifted with the historical films, and I'm like, please do more. Mm-hmm. Please do more.
Yeah, the costumes used colors and especially hues of colors to notate certain characteristics and social statuses. So basically, like, all of your peasants and your just standard whoever people are all in, like, earthy tones.
Begone, peasants.
Your nobility are all in, like, pastels, but they're very specifically, like, pink. Because, like, Roxanne is in other pastels, but she's not in pink. And that is why that significant change to the Japanese poster where they rendered her dress in pink instead of green actually makes a difference.
Yeah.
Because it codes that costume way differently.
Yeah, she wore a lot of jewel tones, actually.
Mm-hmm. Whereas, like, the nobility, like, the jerky nobility wore, like, these really washed out pastels.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, obviously all the army is, like, in white and red.
Yes.
Right. So, he cited the inspiration of 18th century watercolors that he'd seen in London and Rome, and that's why you get all these, like, really flowy costumes. Like, and you'd see this in the dance numbers, too, like, all these, like, gigantic sleeves that move when everyone moves, and all, like, the collars and the ruffles and the also, layers on layers on layers of chiffon. And
it reminded me a lot of the choreography that Twyla Tharp did. You remember when we watched Amadeus, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the opera, the first major opera he did where everyone was, like, dancing and they had the turbans. It was the Turkish play that everyone wanted to freak out about. That was choreographed by Twyla, whose choreography will only emphasize that kind of costume, because even those costumes were big and flowy, too. Mm-hmm. And it was something I kept thinking about while watching the dance numbers, especially with Christian and the soldiers, and it was like, oh my god.
Yeah, because it's not even just that you're getting, like, these very fluid, watery movements, which also imitate the watercolors, but then you have the colors of a watercolor painting doing that as, like... It's very much like a moving painting, and I really appreciate that about a lot of, like, the way that this movie works.
That's honestly a good way to describe this movie, is that it's like a beautiful, historical, like, almost Rococo style painting.
Yeah.
That's moving.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, everything looks gorgeous, everything is colorful, it's just...
Thank God there's color in a movie.
I know, and the lighting...
In 2022, and just Jesus Christ.
And the lighting was perfect. Like, there was never a moment where this movie was not lit well intentionally.
Yes.
It was so... Even the dark scenes had purpose, but you could see everything, and it was just... Oh, God. I could wax on about how gorgeous this movie looks. But, but the best thing you can do is just go see it for yourself.
Yeah, it does actually remind me a lot of, like, the look of Amadeus, now that you bring it up. Like, it's very reminiscent of that for me.
Which is one of my favorite movies ever. Go watch that too, please. They're both very much worth watching.
Yes. So the film was actually shot in Noro, Sicily, which is, you know, I was telling you about how it was shot in Italy, and it was shot during the latter end of the 2020 stage of the pandemic. I don't want to say it was during the latter end of the pandemic, because we're still not there. But the latter end of 2020, so we were kind of relaxing some lockdowns here and there. But they used only approximately 150 extras to keep the production more compact, so like an actual theater production where you'd reuse a lot of people in the background, because you only have so many people traveling around with you. So when you, like, and Wright even talked about this in one of the reviews I read, where he was talking about how they kept it compact so that they didn't have to worry about like the safety precautions quite as much. But you can actually see some of the extras. Like, in one scene, there'll be, like, a soldier in the background. The next scene, they'll be, like, dressed as a sheep. So, like, a lot of the extras kind of move around from musical number to musical number, and that's why he very specifically, like, shouted out all the dancers and the performers on the movie before the movie started, because he basically ran this like it was an actual theater production.
Yes.
Which worked really well when you're trying to shoot this in the middle of, you know, a panini.
Yes. The Backstreet Boys tour.
Thank you, Gabe Crump. Backstreet Boys World Tour.
Yes.
Yeah, so Cyrano stars Peter Dinklage as the titular character, Cyrano de Bergerac, as well as Haley Bennett as his childhood friend, Roxanne. Both Dinklage and Bennett are reprising their roles from the 2018 stage production, and to round out, like, the weird connected meta of the movie to the play, or vice versa, where, you know, like, you have Dinklage married to the writer. Bennett is actually, her partner is Joe Wright.
Which I had no idea.
I didn't know about this either. They had a daughter in 2018, so they've been together since at least then. They haven't really worked a whole lot together, though. Like, I was trying to find stuff where, like, they crossed paths and stuff. They really hadn't.
No, that's why I was so surprised, because she hasn't really worked with him.
And he's had a history of hooking up with people on productions. Or at least once. Because I'm pretty sure that he met his ex-wife on a production of a movie that he made, but I could have that wrong. Allegedly, everything's alleged. I read it on Wikipedia, so if it's wrong, don't sue me. Okay, I read it on Wikipedia. I am very open about having read that on Wikipedia, so if it's wrong, don't come for me. So, the central cast also includes Kelvin Harrison Jr. as Christian, and Ben Mendelsohn as the Duke de Guiche. The De Guiche. The supporting cast includes Bashir Salahuddin as Lebret, who is Cyrano's friend. He's the other military guy. Joshua James as Valverde. Monica Dolan as Marie. Mark Benton as Montfleury. Richard McCabe as the priest. They didn't give him a name. He's just the priest.
Yeah.
And Jana Vassan as Sister Claire, among a bunch of other people in the background. But there weren't, like, a ton of notable characters because, like, a stage production, you have so many speaking roles. Right? Yes. So... Peter Dinklage's past work. Peter Dinklage. His past work obviously includes Game of Thrones, X-Men Days of Future Past, and you also had like a stage production of Richard III and Elf, which were pre his like breakthrough in Game of Thrones. It's basically when he got real big.
Yeah, we're gonna basically just say that him getting Tyrion Lannister in Game of Thrones was his true breakout role, because that's when everyone started paying attention.
Yeah. He was also in 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri,
which is a really great movie.
Avengers Infinity War, which we'll get to when we do Avengers Infinity War.
A lot to say on that.
And I Care a Lot, which we fucking loved him in. That movie is depressing and awful, and I was really upset about it by the end. But he is pitch perfect in that movie.
Yes, he is pitch perfect in that movie, and my review for it is literally... I'm just gonna believe this and this happened, because I don't want to spoil the ending for you, because a Lannister always pays his debts.
Yes. I mean, like, the only spoiler I give is the ending pissed me off. But I really, really loved Peter Dinklage in it.
The ending didn't piss me off. It's the other ending we thought we were gonna get that would have pissed me off.
Yeah.
But it's a movie that will definitely make you feel conflicted. It's going to make you feel a lot of things, especially with depressed and upset. And, yeah. Yeah,
it's really uncomfortable to watch if you have any kind of, like, mental health triggers, just forewarning, or any kind of triggers about family in caretaking facilities.
Yeah, or nursing homes.
Yeah, because it's a rough watch. It can be a rough watch.
It can be a very rough watch.
But he was in that, and he was perfect, and I loved him.
He was the main reason we wanted to watch it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely, he was. I didn't even remember it. You told me you were gonna watch it, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, and he's the reason that we wanted to watch this, and then we found a bunch of other stuff we liked in it. So
and he's technically reconnecting with the National regarding Game of Thrones, though it's pretty indirect. I really doubt that. I mean, maybe he did, but I really doubt that he knew the band. They just kind of connected.
I mean, maybe
they might have. I don't know, but I know that the band connected more solidly with Ramin than they did anybody else. Because, like, if I remember correctly, I remember reading a story. Again, this is alleged. I do not know how true it is, but the National was kind of upset that they didn't get a cameo in the show.
We wanted a cameo in the Red Wedding. You showed Ed Sheeran.
Or, like, in the show at all. Like, they had Ed Sheeran in the last season, but you couldn't have the dudes who did Reigns of Castamere. Are you serious?
As a freaking Lannister soldier. And the whole time I'm like, is Arya gonna kill him? I mean, we'll get to that when we do Game of Thrones, but I was really, really hoping. Which we will definitely get to Game of Thrones at some point. And boy, those episodes are gonna be long.
Yeah, those are gonna be ones we're gonna have to do episode by episode, because otherwise it'll be a mess. Hot mess. Anyway, not the point here. So Bennett's past work includes music and lyrics. The Magnificent Seven, which you have seen.
Which is actually a really great reboot type of movie.
The Girl on the Train.
Which is,
I haven't seen it.
It's basically a Lifetime movie with a big budget.
I mean, you love those.
I do love those. It's just, this one's kind of like, I'm still conflicted on how I feel about it, but I really did enjoy the book, and Bennett does her damnedest in the role, so...
And she was also in Devil All the Time, which we haven't seen yet.
Yeah,
but
we have not seen it yet.
Robert Pattinson's gonna ruin me in that movie, and I don't know how to feel about it.
I do know that Bennett has been mistaken for Jennifer Lawrence a lot of the time when she's
blonde.
Yeah, when she's blonde, because she does look a lot like her.
Yeah, she does.
Especially in The Girl on the Train.
Mendelsohn's past work with Wright includes The Darkest Hour with Gary Oldman, who's also worked with Peter Dinklage previously on a film we don't talk about. But Mendelsohn also connects weirdly back to basically everything we've covered so far, right? So he was in The Dark Knight Rises, which connects back to the Batman that we just did.
Yep.
Sort of. He was in Captain Marvel, which we've covered already, and he will be in Spider-Man Far From Home, or he was in Spider-Man Far From Home, but we haven't covered it yet. He was also in Rogue One, which also connects back to our episode on the Batman because of how many people sincerely were involved with Gareth Edwards.
Yes.
And that movie in particular. But, I mean, he very likely got this because of The Darkest Hour.
Yeah, he most likely got this because, Wright was just, hey, you want to play this bad guy? You're good at playing him, aren't you?
As long, my only beef with this movie on that note is how,
I can't believe he sang a song that was literally, I'm gonna rape this girl.
I wish that they had just toned that down a little bit. He can still be a villain without being like, yo, I'm gonna rape you. Like, I'm gonna take you whether you like it or not. Trigger warning, I guess, but Jesus.
I'm gonna just say that it reminded me, it gave me such intense flashbacks to Frollo singing about wanting to fuck Esmeralda in The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
But he looked so much like the Marquis de Sade from Quills, and I really just wanted it to be so much more subtle, because if it had been anything like the Marquis de Sade, it would have been so scary.
Here's the thing, though, is that have you seen Quills?
Oh, yes, I've seen Quills.
I can't remember all the stuff you've seen, all the stuff you haven't seen. I'm still trying to keep track of all the stuff I've seen.
Fair.
But, he looked like the Marquis de Sade, and he kind of acted like him, but honestly, he acted way more like Michael Caine's character in that.
Yeah.
He was way too rapey.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if he'd have been more like the Marquis de Sade and had, been subtle about stuff.
The Marquis de Sade was not very subtle.
More. Well,
he was not subtle.
No, he wasn't, but...
He literally
I know
had
he wasn't.
a statue of people.
Okay, I know, but, they could have dialed it back, a little bit, and it could have been, really scary and cool.
No, but it was scary, really, because...
Okay, but I don't need him to come out swinging I'm gonna come into your house and I'm gonna take you whether you like it or not.
He had the flowing black robes like Frollo. He had the deep voice like Frollo.
Okay, you can still sing a song about it without being yo, I'm gonna rape you. Stop it.
All he was missing was the big roaring fire and the church bells.
I would have appreciated it more if he'd been, repressed and dealing with his crappy, repressed sexual feelings that he's gonna blame on this girl.
Well, yeah, he's being repressed from hitting the JJ.
Except that I'm not even sure that's what it is, because I'm pretty sure that he's just there trying to punish her for her involvement in Cyrano killing his friend. Friend, I use in quotation marks, because I'm pretty sure they're more than friends.
Actually, I think it's more just the fact that he is a royal, he's used to getting his way, and he doesn't want to be denied, so he thinks he's entitled to her.
I think it's a little bit of both.
I mean,
a little bit of both, because half of his thing is still about getting vengeance on Cyrano.
I mean, sure.
Through Roxanne. So, again, I just wish they dialed that song back, just a couple degrees, because it was a little much.
It was very much. It was super extra, but I also remember just being in my seat I can't believe they're doing this. This is amazing and horrifying at the same time.
It was too much for me.
It was so much.
That aside, so Harrison Jr.'s other work includes Elvis, where he's gonna be BB King.
He gonna be BB King.
Baby King. He was in the Trial of the Chicago 7, and his big breakout role essentially was It Comes at Night.
Which everyone got pissed off about. I remember that.
They mostly come at night. Mostly.
Oh my god. No one's gonna get that reference.
People who have watched South Park will get that reference. I understand that reference. I am Captain America. I understood that reference. Anyway, so he's probably the most, like, musically trained out of most anybody involved. Because his father trained with Ellis Marsalis, who was, like, the father of this, like, big family that made, like, this empire, basically, out of, like, jazz music. And so he also grew up with Harry Connick Jr. But, so Harrison Jr. was taught by Marsalis' son, Jason, and then also did frequent collabs with some of the other Marsalis siblings.
Now I just want him...
they're, like, ingrained in this, like, big jazz empire family.
Now I just want him to do a duet with Harry Connick Jr.
Oh, yeah, bring it. Bring it, please. I'm for it. And then Salahuddin's other work, he was actually, like, the second actor. He was supposed to be a different actor, but he had to drop out. So we ended up with Salahuddin, who was great in this movie.
Yeah,
I had zero issues with him.
I really liked him.
Yeah, but he's going to be in Top Gun Maverick.
Oh, God.
He was also in A Marriage Story, which I haven't seen because it looks really depressing, and I just like to meme on it.
It really is depressing.
He's also in the recent Hulu The Dropout,
which I'm excited for.
It looks great. And then he also did a lot of work on Hulu's, like, Glow series, which I don't remember, but I haven't watched Glow in a context where I was really looking for anybody in it, so I'd have to go back and revisit it.
I still have to finish it.
I do too. I got into, like, the second season and then kind of, I got distracted by, like, 15 other things.
I haven't finished the first season because I got distracted by 20 other things.
Yeah, but Salahuddin also had, like, a bunch of, like, nominations and accolades because he was a writer and did frequent appearances on Late Night with Jimmy Fallon from 2009 to 2012.
Damn.
So about 3 years he was working on Fallon's Late Night. But that is all I have about this one because we included the music with the writing this time.
Yeah.
Because we had to. It was musical. It counts.
It does count.
So, overall rating, my dear. What would you rate it?
I think probably 4 stars. Because the thing is that I love the look of it. I absolutely love the look of it. I love the costumes. And, man, I am such a sucker for a good-looking period piece, man. And that, like, it feels like that's one of my kryptonites when it comes to movies.
It absolutely is.
And then you have the cast, which was just great across the board. Peter Dinklage is the reason...
Peter Dinklage,
yes,
Peter Dinklage.
He is the reason I came, the reason I stayed, the reason I almost cried.
Yeah, you almost cried. I cried
you bawled
for
your
a
eyes
solid
out.
20 minutes. Like, there was one specific line in the song that they sing right before they go into the battle, and the minute they did it, I just started crying and just kept crying.
You did.
I kept crying for like a half hour after the movie was over while I was driving home.
And I had to keep asking if you were okay.
I just couldn't stop crying. I was fine. I just couldn't stop crying. Thanks, Joe.
But, like, yeah, I love the cast, and I'm someone who doesn't really like musicals, and when I do like it, it has to hit a very specific thing with me. I really liked a lot of the music in this. You know, I really loved a lot of the choreography. I loved how it was set up. You know, like, when they're singing... Most people don't, they don't notice it or whatever, and I liked how it just, how the logic of the singing worked in the movie. It didn't feel too hokey or anything.
No, they just sang.
Yeah, I was actually invested. Like I said, the music was very nice. The melodies were very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it got real raunchy. And I'm like, ooh.
I mean, obviously, yes.
Like when Roxanne is just
when she's like basically like this is gonna get naughty, but she is basically pleasing herself with the love letters.
Yeah, she's rubbing the love letters all over her and then gripping her bed and all this shit, and I'm like,
it was like, girl. It was very akin to a love scene.
I'm like, woo!
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, the only reason I'm not giving it 5 stars is because, man, that ending...
You just don't like tragic endings.
I don't like that fucking ending. Like, it sucks, okay? Like, how dare you?
I'm not sure that's the movie's fault. It's the story's fault.
Well, then you know what, movie? You had the chance to give it a different ending. And
I mean, it still made it a slightly better ending than the play did.
You did, which is why you still get 4 stars. But still, I don't like that ending for that story. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, so in that
4 stars.
In that regard, I would give it 4.5, and it's only because, again, I really wish they dialed that Ben Mendelsohn song back like 2 degrees.
Please
stop. I hate
Literally a line in there.
I hate it.
I'll get what I want.
I did not enjoy that. It just made me uncomfortable.
You just kept getting lower and lower with this voice.
The singing was fine. It was just... that experience was so viscerally uncomfortable.
It was so uncomfortable.
That I had a rough time with it, but the rest of the movie, great. I sat and cried for forever. I could probably sit and cry on cue now because of just thinking about that movie. I would get sad again. But yeah, so it would probably be a 4.5 for me.
I think that's pretty good for that.
Yeah.
I mean, 4.5, that's a good rating for a movie like this.
Yes. I wish that it was getting more of the attention that it deserved.
Yeah. It really sucks that I think it's just going to be overshadowed.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be... It'll be a miracle and up to, like, you know, actual historical film lovers and period film lovers to actually go out there and give it the money that it deserves in order to make back all that money.
Just go watch it after you watch The Batman, because we know you're going to go watch The Batman, because everybody's going to go watch The Batman.
Yeah.
Just watch it after you're done watching The Batman. It's fine.
And it's...
Unless you can't afford it, in which case, like, I'm not going to get mad at you. It's fine.
Yeah, we understand why if people can't afford it, but man...
We, too, are poor.
But just... yes. We are... Just know that if you go see it, you're going to see an amazing performance by an amazing actor. You're going to see a great cast. You're going to hear some really great songs. And every dollar of that $3 million is on screen. And it looks
30 They spent 30. They've only made 3 so far.
30,
when I was looking it up on, like, the 7th.
Every dollar of that $30 million is on screen, and it looks gorgeous. It's a gorgeous feast for the eyes. And, again, it's Tyrion fucking Lannister. Go see it. Because a Lannister always pays his debts.
Sure. So, on that note, thank you for listening to this episode of FANSPLAINED. If you enjoy what we do, consider donating on Ko-fi. Everything we make goes right into the production quality of the show. We appreciate all of our subscribers and everything you do, and we're thankful for anything from Hulk smashing that like button to your questions and comments on each episode, and especially sharing the show with your friends. FANSPLAINED is typically a new... I see, I can't even get through it sometimes. FANSPLAINED is typically a weekly media, criticism, and deep dive podcast. I need to dial that back so that I don't keep tripping over it. And we are currently still working our way through the chronological order of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We will be doing our regularly scheduled Marvel Multiverse episode this week, covering X2 and X-Men The Last Stand.
because even though we have plenty to say about X-Men The Last Stand, we don't want to develop... We want to watch
a good thing with the bad thing. That's what it is. You can find our updates here on YouTube as well as on Twitter and Coffee at FANSPLAINED. If you want more of our conversations on the MCU and other fandoms, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell for new episode notifications. So until next time, Salt Shakers, this has been Ryan.
And Em.
With the FANSPLAINED podcast, and we'll see you next episode.